welcome to your daily game face. I'm Dr. Kim Lannon, and I'm here in Boston, Massachusetts. Well, close to it.
Yeah.
I'm on a roll this morning. These lines.
Oh, I see.
Hi, I'm
yeah.
Dr. Kim.
That was
Boston,
your opening for your video today?
Yes, because I was taping again for THB because the Human Baton is up and launched on our socially distanced athlete challenge. It started on Monday the 21st. I'll roll right into it, literally. I'm on a roll this morning. I'm on this high. As you know, I just came flying in. Lou's what is going on?
Competitive high?
Because of pie or high?
No, competitive high.
Oh, I am and just I was a little adrenaline rush this morning because, as you know, we had the earth opened up yesterday and poured on us.
Yeah.
So I was taping this morning for THB or I should say retaping some things, and my entire lawn's soaked. My deck is soaked, so I was running a little behind as usual.
So you weren't doing the activities tapes. You were doing some stuff for them. Some production stuff.
No, I'm taping the second challenge that comes out on Monday, and I've been off and on taping it to get it right. Stop laughing at me.
Yep.
And so this morning was going to be the big day to fix some of the issues that had come up over the weekend, which is typical, right? But it unfortunately had rained, and my taping venue is outside.
Yeah.
And it's been a little wet, so I've half taped this morning. As I run in here out of breath, I was laughing because as people don't realize that most weeks I'm texting Lou going, I'm late.
Yeah.
But this week it wasn't because,
you were more or less on time. Well, depending on how you define on time.
Oh, whatever. Anyway, it was for a good reason.
It's fine.
I was very excited this morning because the deck finally dried off. It was a little weird shading, but whatever. But I was rocking and rolling this morning, so to speak, and I can't give it away what it is. But I was giggling, and I had some flubs. I love doing flub lines because I just go naturally. I try to wing it in my head, and then of course random stuff comes out.
Yep.
So now I'm out of breath and very excited. So I'm very animated this morning because I'm ready to go.
Are you keeping an outtakes reel? Because
I'm keeping one. I'm allowing some of them to go out to California. I'm holding on some of them because there were some whopper doozies, let me tell you, especially over the weekend because I was taping some of it in my front yard. Had good shading and light, and my front yard looks like I live in the city, but my backyard looks like I live in the swamp and the jungle.
Yep.
So, but there was no good light outside in the back, but there was great light out front. However, there
no
were
ducks,
cars.
no ducks, no raccoons, no alligators in the backyard.
No alligators, nope. Yep. Just deer, raccoon, beaver, as you know, right? All those lovely creatures, little fox. Oh, you've got fox, coyotes, but the front yard over the weekend was part of the taping issue. I have lots of bloopers around cars going by.
Oh, yeah, well.
Or motorcycles, because Saturday's, our motorcycle day here in New England.
Yeah.
So it was a lot. But so it was exciting this morning.
Don't tape next to a road.
You what?
You don't tape next to a road.
Thanks, Lou. Thanks. Your production notes are fantastic this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I didn't tape next to the road today, but anyways, it was really exciting because here we are. We have launched the Human Baton Socially Distanced Athlete Challenge, or as my friend Kyle called it, the Socially Disconnected Athlete Challenge. He made a mistake, and there it is on the screen. Socially Distanced Athlete Competition. It started on the Monday the 21st. You still have time to register. If you go to thehumanbaton.com/challenges, you still have time to register before this Sunday to get into the first one to have them all count. Because if you do all 6, then you can qualify for the grand prize, and all the guidelines will be emailed to you. A whole bunch of people have signed up. We've exceeded what we thought was going to happen for numbers, and we're still getting people. And now I'm in the gym last night going, hey, you. Hey, you.
Oh,
people that are, I'm
hand combat,
doing a million pull-ups or something. I'm like, hey, do you want to join something cool? So I know that a couple people were like, sure. So it's very cool. I'm very excited. I know I keep saying it's cool because I'm so excited about it. So excited and cool. But also, I had great feedback already from a couple people yesterday about that they joined, they saw it, they knew what it was about because they've been hearing me talk about it. But now all of a sudden they're like, oh, this is amazing, because they've been locked up in the pandemic, even though they've been working out, and all of a sudden they feel connected. And I've got all the feedback that we thought would be possible out of doing this kind of challenge. I've already gotten it from 2 people. So I was very excited, unsolicited. So please come join. If you join late, you can still join. But if you join by this Sunday, you'll still get to do the first challenge. However, if you wait too long, you won't get to practice the first challenge before you have to tape it and submit it. And I highly recommend you taping it. Practicing it. And so it's out there and out in the world right now, and it's the intermediate and the advanced versions of them. Once you find one track to be on, then you stay in that track because, you can't jump from one to the other because it's harder or easier. And then you gain points and you win swag, like, shirts and caps and stuff. And then you also win money.
Ooh.
And then the grand prize is money. So if you go onto thehumanbaton.com/challenges, you will see the prize list and the giveaways and so on and so forth and the eligibility. People were asking me, really good, it's back on the screen again. People were asking me about the if kids can sign up. So you have to be 18 and older to be eligible for the grand prize or those kinds of things, but you can sign up if you're a teenager, because I had a couple really great athlete teenagers. I know at least one of them signed up so that they can at least be involved and get on the leaderboard and have fun. And so they just can't win. They have to be 18 and older to be eligible.
This started pre-COVID, didn't it?
Yes.
And yet it seems like COVID kind of set up a perfect venue for this whole competition.
Yes.
Kind of worked in your favor.
It did.
Yeah.
Hence the socially distanced athlete challenge, right? I think that the whole concept of the Human Baton is, it's a franchise, or a sport franchise for all the big, like skydiving and horse racing and drift cars and so on, and Thundercats. But the underpinning of it is the global family and tribe building of the online networking of people to connect, be motivated by each other, do things that, would be different than we've ever done before virtually.
Yep.
But that was pre-pandemic, and now the pandemic has made it even better.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
In this case, because it's exactly speaking to, hey, let's connect. And, one of the whole points is to connect so that, hey, if someone's over in Australia or Sweden or Norway or France or US or the Bahamas or wherever, and we all say, hey, we're going to all go to Florida. Do you want to come and do Thundercat racing with us? We're having a big weekend at the end of July, blah, blah, blah. You can come. It doesn't mean that you'll get paid for, but, you get to come and have fun and train. Yep. If you want to be a Human Baton, this is a great way to get your foot in the door, to actually be one of the people that goes into the franchise race sports and does the bigger venue of the Human Baton. So,
how have you done internationally? You have you're talking about other countries, a lot of people registered in other countries?
So I can't tell you exactly the numbers right now because I haven't talked to them in the past 2 days for that. I do know that what the general number is, but I know that we do have numbers across the different countries. So,
wow, that's great.
And given that our team is global, like the race, the athlete management team, like myself, Eric Plakow, Theo and Bjorn, they're all overseas, France, Sweden, people obviously that listen to me in Australia, and I've got people in France and Italy. They, I know that they're at least listening and watching and being online, so I don't know if they've joined or not, but I know that it's going to be global. And pre-pandemic, the whole race series itself, with the jumping out of the plane and then drift car, race car, endurance horse, and thundercatting, was all supposed to be all overseas. And so we've been a little truncated on that, but that's okay. It's coming.
Yep.
So it will be amazing to do this. And I'm so excited because it feels like, we started. So a lot of work has gone into this.
Are you going to be on the leaderboard for the activities?
I am going to, so I'm not eligible to win the grand prize because I'm an employee, staff, etc. advisor to the show. But I will aim to be on the leader.
But you're participating, yeah.
I will be, yes, I am participating. I have not done the first challenge yet officially on this particular one yet. I have practiced it. So I will be doing it. I actually did practice it a while back, and when I was knowing, and I taped myself and I did it wrong. So that tells you something, because I was so engaged in the activity that I didn't do it exactly as the guidelines. So I giggled to myself and had a few choice words on my video, and then giggled more. So I will be mindful. You know me. This is what I do.
Yep.
I learned in my 30s that if I didn't laugh at myself, it was going to be a short life.
Yeah.
And it took me until I was in my 30s to realize that you got to just laugh sometimes, or a lot of the time, because things are kind of funny.
Yeah.
So
Forgive yourself.
yeah. So it was just, I mean, afterwards, and it was funny because John was taping me when I did it. This is the first challenge, and this is like a while back when I was just doing it to figure out how to do it when we were doing it as an internal team. And he didn't want to say anything to me while I was in the middle of it to tell me I was doing it wrong. So he waited till the end after he stopped. He goes, "You did that wrong." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, you didn't go the opposite direction because you have to go one way and then the other way in the challenge." And I was like, "Yes, I did." And he's like, "No, you didn't."
Oh, God.
And I'm like, "Oh."
Is he participating? Oh, he's got his knee issue.
Well, he's not.
Yeah.
So, because he's not. And he's injured.
Yeah.
In so many ways. So we're still waiting on that. Don't even get me started on that one. But no, but he's participating by watching. So he's a good watcher and helper.
He's a coach.
He is a coach. Except this morning I told him to go away from me. Because he becomes a director.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, a director.
Yeah, he becomes a producer director of me, and then that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Because he tries to tell me to speed up, slow down, project more. I'm like, go away.
Well,
so
he's just trying to help.
Well, yes, and then sometimes the help is just annoying.
Yep.
So anyway, so I've gone on my almost 15 minutes of THB, and so if you didn't hear me yet, please go over to thehumanbaton.com/challenges and please join. You do not have to be an elite athlete. You just have to be wanting to do something fun and have fun with other people and challenge yourself and make yourself better than you were yesterday.
Yep.
So get off the couch and come on out and have fun. Right?
Yep.
Are you going to do it? Did you sign up? Oh,
I
if you didn't
did
sign
not.
up, I'm going to be so upset.
I did not. I've got my own challenges going on.
Whoa. Come on. Are you going to sign up? I'm pressuring you.
I'll sign up.
Will you really?
Sure.
All right, everybody out there in listening world, pressure Lou to sign up. Come on, Lou.
Send me a note.
Okay. So anyway, how are you?
I'm okay.
Are you?
Yeah,
It's been
a week already. It's only Wednesday.
It's only Wednesday.
I know.
How was your Father's Day?
Father's Day was very good, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you see your children?
I did. We had dinner
Very nice.
together. Yeah, had a good time.
Very, very nice. That's good. I'm glad. Did you get good stuff? Swag?
Yeah, I got very good stuff.
Wow, you're a man of many words today. Yep, it's like talking to a teenager. Yep,
Sorry.
It's fine. It's good. Good. Awesome. Yep.
Sorry, it's very good. I got 2 sets. I got the new quote unquote family and the kids, and we all went to dinner together. That was fun.
Well, good.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
I didn't get any bourbon. Usually I get bourbon on Father's Day, but not this year.
Did you finish the bourbon I gave you for Christmas?
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, God.
Probably by January.
Well, that didn't take long.
Yeah.
So, I actually, speaking of bourbon, I didn't have this, but I was with someone this weekend that I'd never been to this place called The Fix. It's a burger place, and I don't eat red meat.
Where is it?
But it was The Fix, and my friend Heather had this bourbon milkshake, and I had a teeny little sip,
What?
and I thought of you, because I was like, oh.
What?
Yeah, it was quite something. She's like, you don't want one? I'm like, no, I'm not drinking alcohol right now. So
where is this restaurant?
They have one in Worcester. We were not in the one in Worcester. We were the one in, I want to say Fitchburg or Leominster.
Okay.
But there's 3 of them, but that's the one we were at. And she had a bourbon milkshake, and it was quite good. And I took a big sip. I don't want it, but I want
Oh, I know.
And after I had that, I was like, oh, that's like 4,000 calories.
I know. Can you imagine?
So it's like, I'm in the mode of like, if I'm going to eat calories, I want it to count for something good, not wasted on that.
Yep. And I'm back in a little counting. Yeah, I'm back in logging and counting and calorie deficit mode. So.
Oh, did I inspire you last week to do calorie deficiting?
No, it's just I'm coming to the end of one of my jobs for the year periodically, and so my schedule's about to open up. So I'm just shifting a priority.
Oh, I
got
got
to spend some time catching up on that.
Oh, all right. Well, I was just figuring that last week's conversation about like not using externals and being more in the moment and being mindful and not externalizing is there.
I think I'm in a good place with that right at the moment.
That's good.
That's not a linear struggle either. That
No.
sometimes you're good at it, sometimes you're not good at it.
Exactly. Well, not it. So practice, like I've said before, practice makes progress.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
So.
And in athletics, one of the things about athletics, we look for athletes that rebound from adversity. So when you slip off that track, finding the skills to get back on the track
Right.
is useful, and limiting the time that you're off the track.
Well, that's part of one of the topics I was going to talk about today in line with last week was resiliency, and how people who tend to have that trait or state of resiliency, whether it is a trait or a state is always up for debate, but being more resilient, and how, whether if you're an athlete or not, or if you were an athlete prior, I was working with that came up from last week's podcast, actually, that I was working with an athlete last week who had time off, and they'd gained some weight, and they need to go back to doing what they were doing, and their resiliency, well, I know that they're like a rubber band, they'll go back, but I was talking to them about, they're only in their 20s right now, and by the time they're 40 or 50, if they keep doing the ping-ponging of their weight, and they're taking time off to the extent that they're doing, it's going to be harder and harder and harder. Even though they're resilient, they're going to have more of a burnout rate as it goes along, because they're tapping out the extremes of their ends on the taking time off and eating what you want, and deficit, like the back and forth, the yo-yoing, plus the I'm on full and then I'm off. It's like, not to say slow and steady wins the race. It really does. It's just staying that progress. Here I am training for the Boston Marathon, like many people, and people do what we call training cycles. So they do like 18 weeks. It's usually 18 weeks of training for the marathon, and then you take time off and all that. I don't do that, because my body and my mindset doesn't work like that. So I just keep the training all year through, just always exercising, always running, and then I just ramp it up as we go along and go into the cycle. And then when it's over, people will take a week or two off. I never do that, because after 2 or 3 days, psychologically, as a sports psych person, I know that your body starts to say, it's very quick. Like, you can do things forever and be in the mode, and then all of a sudden take 2 or 3 days off, and it's over. Right. Hey, it's over. Party's over.
I'm surprised to find that marathoners take time off, because that would be really tough to ramp up again, I would think.
Yeah, well, I mean, so there's a difference between elite level and then more recreational, or I'd say advanced. People who are elite level stay on a training program that's not necessarily and I would say that my program follows along more of an elite level, if I do say so myself. Yep. Just because of what I did as my background as a gymnast. So I'm always on. We never had time off as gymnasts. So that's one sport that I can speak to personally, that you don't have a hiatus from, all the other sports get, summer vacation or winter vacation.
Off season. Yeah.
It's 100% of the time, game on all the time. And so you have your competition season, and then you have your training season, and it's full 100% on and full 100% on, whichever you're doing. So I'm just used to doing that. So I think that most elite athletes, even if you look at my handful of football players I have in the NFL, they are full on even when they're off. Their resiliency is always being tapped, because they're in competition play mode all the time during season, and then when they're off season, even though you'll hear Tom Brady went on vacation to Greece, or somewhere in Costa Rica, or somebody will be doing something. Well, yeah, but they're still training. They don't let that go. But people think people take time off, but there's, I won't name them, but there's gyms around here that are specific for people that live in Tampa Bay, for instance, and they come up and have their homes up here in Massachusetts, and there's a specific gym here that trains the guys over the summer, and so it's always ongoing, because at that level you do that. So when you're a marathoner, you're always running. Like Meb is running, I know, and Kara Goucher and Shalane and all the women and all the men of the higher ranking running, they're always running. So, and I wouldn't say I'm an elite runner by any stretch of the imagination, because I'm not, but I train in the same fashion.
It's inertia and momentum, right? If you're moving, you want to keep moving. I remember when you're really on top of it, you feel bad when you don't do it.
Exactly.
You want to do it, and then when you get into the point where you don't want to do it anymore and it's tough to come back, you've killed all your momentum, and it's tough to ramp up again.
Exactly, and that's with anything. So that's we've said it many times before, is that this sports background gives you such a foundation for life and life issues, because if you're inert,
Yeah.
You're inert. Stagnancy becomes sedentary. It's perpetuating. Now, if you go the other direction, then it's progress forward. So it's that law of kinetics. Movement begets movement. That's my theory. You always have to keep moving. And if you slow down to stop, well, stopping becomes the norm. And that gets people in so much difficulty.
It's tough from a mental state. Like when I'm doing the serious shows on the weekends, that's a 7-day work week, and it's 6 months out of the year.
Right.
And then you're just begging for it to end at a certain point, and then the weekend next weekend when it ends, it's like I don't want it to end. I want to keep going, and you just sit there, you look around afterwards, and go, you have all this extra time, and it's just your mind gets to take walks, and it's not good when you're an overthinker.
Right. Well, so that's why I think it's important when you're thinking about motivation and you're thinking about, whether you're an athlete or not, when you're thinking about motivation, if you don't have a sense of purpose I should say, let's keep it positive. When you have a sense of purpose and you have something constantly, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, whatever it is, to look forward to, it makes it easier to move forward. It's when I see people get stuck, is that they've lost the purpose. They've lost their sense of why, what, how, when, what am I doing this for? And so, and the pandemic didn't help that because I'm dealing with lots of pandemic stuff right now, which never came up into the experience base of people before like it is now. I mean, people are really, the weight gain and the weight, that's a big one. I know I harp on that a lot lately, but that's been in my presence a lot, and it's on TV, it's in social media, it's people, alcohol consumption, food consumption, people becoming complacent, sedentary.
Just lack of purpose in general.
So it comes down to, and so how does lack of purpose translate into real language for everyday people? It's what's your goal for today, or translates into what is your intention for the day? My intention is to make sure that I do 10 minutes of activity, or make sure that I leave the house. I think I had 3 calls / clients yesterday that aren't going back to in-person work. They're still staying home, and they were super lockdown people, hence the calls yesterday. They're super lockdown people, so they're still in that mode, even though they know that you don't have to do that. They're vaccinated, they can, right? But they're not leaving. They went into their office for the first time in 16, 17 months, like this past 2 days, got their stuff and brought it home because the offices have consolidated down to what they call, I think they're calling it hoteling. So you can come in and you have to sign up for the desk that you want for X amount of time, and you can come into work and do that. But people are opting to stay home because a lot of many, I would say more than not, are doing the whole stay-at-home thing.
Sure.
I think that's a problem.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think it takes away a sense of purpose, because if you don't have to get up and shower.
Right, yeah.
There's an intention for the day, showering.
Yes. Let's
shower and brush our teeth. And that, it's joking, but I'm telling you how many people that I could tell you have not been doing that.
Yep.
So, and it's definitely getting better, and I've seen it getting better, but that's where the theme is like the resiliency and progress and practice and having a purpose. And people go, what does that mean, a purpose? It's just like, what is your day today? What are you looking forward to today?
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to anything? And a lot of times now people are like, no. Which is why THB has been really good for people. I know I'm plugging it, but I am, because it's something to look forward to. Even if you get one push-up, that's not the challenge, I'm just giving you an example, but if you get one push-up and 30 other people get 10, you still did one. You did something, and by the time you practice it enough, by the end of the week, the challenge is maybe you get 5, and they count, and the other people's they weren't in the right form. Hey, it's giving you something to compete against yourself with. So, and if you don't join something like that, so do it for yourself. Go on, on demand. And I push people to on demand because there's yoga programs out now. iFit's got stuff out. Obviously, Peloton's got stuff out. If you've got, there's so many things out there to just get yourself into a different mindset. If you don't want to do exercise, then certainly there's painting now. There's all kinds of other classes. There's meetup groups that have been recharged. You got to find something.
That mindset carries over to other aspects of life.
Yes.
You create a healthy mindset in one area of your life, it's going to carry over because it's a skill set.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it goes, if you have that sense of purpose and mindset to move forward, you're always in, speaking of deficits, you're always in non-deficit. You're perpetuating movement for yourself. You're giving yourself something else to have in your life to kind of put in your bank. And mindset is either that closed mindset or open mindset. So if you have a closed mindset, you're going to be deficiting yourself. If you have an open mindset to things I'll take myself out of my comfort zone. I'll take that extra movement to do like a new class or something, online or, something with friends or going new places. Well, then you're more likely to have the open mindset, which opens doors for intentions of the day and looking for purpose and feeling like you're really connected to the world when you've been disconnected.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents worth on that. What do you think of that?
I like it. And these things that you're talking about, like the human baton or some of these videos, getting yourself into a situation where you can quantify your gains is useful because those are wins. You talked about putting it in your bank. It could be anything. It could be saving money. It could be a number of push-ups. I could do 1 on Monday and I can do 10 at the end of the week.
Right.
That's a gain, right? And that's a win. And you go, okay, well, I'm going to shoot for 25.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and so my quote of the week that went into the opening launch of THB this week was basically I didn't wake up this morning to be mediocre. I always think in that mindset is like, you don't wake up to be mediocre. We wake up to be better than we were yesterday, and challenge ourselves against ourselves to push forward to be a better us or better me, a better you, whatever it is, right? So, but if you're waking up, and this isn't to be negative at all, it's like, but if your mindset is to wake up and be like, well, I'm average and that's okay. That doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It doesn't mean you have to be this superstar athlete or business person or billionaire. All it means is wake up with a plan to like better yourself today. Because it makes your whole mental health better. It makes your body move. It makes you make right choices in life. And that doesn't mean it has to be perfect. But if you're waking up with that status quo, it's a sinker. It's a deficiter. And your body will tell your mind to shut down, and your mind will tell your body to shut down, and they'll work together because they become very codependent together in what the messages are. And then the mind will say, well, I'll do it tomorrow. And the body will say, why bother? Right? Because they talk to each other. That mind-body connection is important to progress, resiliency, movement forward, kinetics, inertia, whichever side it goes on. And so if the mind-body connection is constantly in the storyboard or the narrative of, well, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really, what's the big deal?
Get through it. A lot of people wake up with the mindset to get through it. I got to do this today. I got to do that today. It's like, well, okay, how about putting 1 or 2 things on a list that you want to do or should do?
Right.
Accomplish something.
Right. Well, and then, okay, so the feedback to that would be, if I'm in my office, the common answer to me is, I don't have time.
Yeah.
And, right, so time is a interesting concept, because if you have time to play on your phone for 20 minutes, if you have time to watch
TikTok.
Oh, don't get me on. See, and I love some of the TikToks out there. But,
I love it too, but it's such a time suck.
Right. And yeah, but I mean, there's some great stuff out there. But instead of dissing on TikTok and all those things, because I will.
No, but that's a perfect example. All the people who are telling you they don't have time to do something constructive have spent 45 minutes on TikTok today.
Yes.
I almost guarantee.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so what I tell people about TikTok, since we're on TikTok, is take TikTok to the gym. Put it on the treadmill and watch TikTok with your earbud and watch it.
There you go.
Right? And and then I get, oh. And so the in that tone is not really about the time anymore. Right. There's a whole different issue going on. Like,
it's about being on the treadmill.
Like, why did you think of that for me? I don't like that.
Yeah.
But by and large, when I have that conversation to get people who say I don't have the time, I say you have to, and I will personally endorse this because I've had to do this in very specific ways. Is you have to make appointments to yourself to not break them. So if you would make an appointment with me, you wouldn't break it because you'd made the appointment. So if you make it to yourself, why are you less important and breaking it by saying, well, I'll push it back because I have to do this thing. Well, no. So one of my teammates, he and I had a text conversation, a little bit exchange yesterday about that, about, I was trying to reach him and which is totally reasonable to have him say like, hey, I was doing my workout, my thing, and I was like, yeah, that's exactly. So it reinforced in my head, that's perfect, because don't answer the phone for me. And I'm fine with that because you set your limit that this is my time and I need to do it for myself so I can do the other things. And that's so reasonable. But so many people get offended by that or hurt, or how could someone not drop everything? It's like, well, because this is what the person's doing. But, the culture is, well, that's selfish. You're doing for yourself versus, no, you have to be able to do for you in order to be able to do for others. Cliche, but true.
Yep.
Right? So,
and it doesn't have to be a workout or something like that.
No.
It can be, you're going to go to Marshall's.
It could be retail therapy. You could go get a massage, getting your nails done, going for a walk, listening to music, going out and fishing for an hour. Whatever it is that floats your boat is you have to schedule in you time. Because there will always be something that gets in the way. And I have that. I have that happen, and so in my scheduler and in notes and stuff, I put in certain days, like I'm taking time here and there, like, because I've been working nonstop, so I have to literally put no, big letters across my scheduler, no, like, so that's my reminder, do not schedule, because I'm notorious for putting no.
I was going to say, do you stick to it?
Yeah, well, so if I don't put it through the whole day and put like a huge X across it, I'll be like, oh, I could do it, right? I could put one person there because I feel like I haven't seen them, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. So, but I have to put big no, that I have it out there and have to be really specific and put signs up at my office that I will not be available. And because if I don't, it creeps in and does what I'm saying.
It can even be work things and things like that, because or even bill things or run, because a lot of times you have something in front of you that's kind of that you don't want to deal with, so you keep pushing it off, and then but put it on your list one day and just say, I'm going to do this today, and just get it done, and even that relief of getting something done, first of all, it's an accomplishment. People underestimate the whole checklist thing.
Oh yeah,
because there's
Unless
little
you're OCD.
Yeah, well. There's a little endorphin rush from checking off things. Right. And that helps to build momentum.
I call it the closet cleaning motivation. You clean the closet you wanted to do for like a year, and all of a sudden you're done, and like, oh my gosh, the motivation surge of now I'm going to do the kitchen cabinets, and now I'm going to do the bathroom.
Yeah. And because you got a payoff from that.
Right.
So you want the payoff again, so you just go do it. Most of the time the payoff is sitting on the couch with an Oreo.
Or the sleeve of Oreos. Let's be realistic here. You can't just eat one.
Nope.
Right? Oh, speaking of that, right? Because it's to the point. So I had a very good long run with someone I'm doing training with on Monday, and we were talking, she and I are both in the nutrition and medical field in different ways, and we were talking about how food does not help this purpose resiliency process that we're talking about today, because so many processed foods that we love, like Lay's potato chips, you can't just eat one. There's a reason why there's slogans like this, and people don't realize that there's chemicals. I know it sounds awful, but there's chemicals that are put in these foods that make it so it goes to that part of your body that pulls you to say, I can't eat just one. So by the time you're having one or two, you've eaten the bag or you've eaten the sleeve of Oreos, because they're chemically processed in a certain way with the type of sugar, the salt, the way it's balanced to keep pulling for you to eat more. Did you know that?
It works. No, I did not.
Yes. So I don't typically.
I'm surprised, but not surprised.
I don't typically talk about it that way, but it's one of the demotivators in people, because it's one of those things that creeps up on you that you don't realize unless you know. I mean, what it would translate to for common, like, just commercial substance use is that, people say eat the outside of the grocery store, not the inside of the grocery store. That's why, because the outside doesn't have additives except for the things they put on those little kiosks saying like, oh, have your apple, but then put this really cheesy, wonderful whipped creamy sauce on it, right? They stick in there. That's supposed to be on the inside, but it's the it takes away from your motivation because the food items are made to get you addicted in, to make you lose your sense of purpose. And certainly, I don't think the intent is written on some document in some company at such and such place saying like, hey,
Yeah.
SC Johnson saying like, let's do this to people. But it's all products are getting you to buy more, to do more, to eat more, to whatever. So here you are. But those are the things that make you have inertia, because by the time you've gotten, oh, it's only one bag, or it's only this or that,
Yeah.
or it's the same process of, when you're sitting on the couch not doing. Now you're eating a product that's chemically producing more chemicals in your body that want more.
You just described pirate booty, by the way. It fits so perfectly.
Pirate booty, I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, that and Pringles. I
Pringles,
haven't
yeah.
had a Pringle in probably a decade, but Pringles definitely have that thing, and now they're out in the flavors. I mean, you don't get pickled jalapeno that grows on a tree. That's not natural.
Pringles are awesome, though.
Salt and vinegar chips.
Yeah.
Doesn't grow on a tree or out of the ground.
No.
Right? So, so you have to think about, does it come from the ground? If it doesn't, it's unlikely going to be something that's going to help you along the way.
I think we all know they're not real flavors. We just...
Listen, that is not true. There's people that think it's real. Because it says, you know why? Because the bag says, with real, and fill in the blank. Come on now.
I'm not even sure it's real potato. So.
So there's certain French fries that are made in this world, and I won't say the company, but there's certain French fries that are almost 100% made out of cellulose, which is tree bark. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
After we're off air, I'll tell you which company it is, so that I don't get myself in trouble. But hey, it's from the ground. Would we
all end up feeling like clowns?
And I get this all the time. They're like, yeah, but that's from the ground.
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm like, yep, a tree is from the ground, and so they only. I mean, it's cheaper because they don't have to use as much potato. And then they make, like, the oil that they're done in, and they taste amazing, so you can't just have one. And when you have, like, a large French fry from, let's say, the big three, right, when Burger King, McDonald's, those are 500 and 600 calories for just eating tree bark.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that there's not potato in them, but you're eating cellulose. You're eating tree bark. Yay! So you're eating natural. You're eating plant.
I guess, yeah. Deep fried plants. Deep fried plants. And God knows the history of that oil.
Afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So the one good thing I think about that kind of stuff is, like, back when we were growing up, the chains were making, like, soy-based milkshakes and stuff like that. Now back then they were like, oh, that's terrible. How could they're cheating the system? It's like, well, actually that was probably the best thing you could buy from, because it was actually, little soy, little edamame. It was all put in there. But anyway, I digress. But going back to just different things in your environment that pull at your resiliency, or make you have a sense of less purpose, or make it easier for you because you buy into the externals. Wow, it's like full circling again back to that. It always comes back to how to be your best you is not buy into the storyline of everything around you and then become victim to it. Yeah. Which I think that victim mentality is what keeps people stuck. And the pandemic this last year has fed into that, because it's given people an excuse and reason to no fault of their own, because people are like, oh, you're blaming. Well, yeah, but if you buy in and you stay in it, and now it's coming out of it, and you stay in that, like, well, I'm going to still stay and do because it's now easier or better. Well, it's become the reason for you to be able to do that.
The problem is COVID kind of amplified this external problem, because it's a external that would stand up in court. In other words,
right.
You can make a legitimate case that your life is being affected by COVID, and your life is affected by outside things.
Speaking of that,
yes.
Maybe you were referencing that because you saw it on TV this weekend. I actually saw on my TV this weekend that there is a law firm, which I will not name, but it's one of those famous ones that has 500 lawyers representing for the big one person. I couldn't believe it. It was COVID-19 workman's comp cases.
Wow.
And I was like, what? So you can sue your company if you got COVID-19 while working there for damages for workman's comp because somebody got you sick.
Wow.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Because you just triggered that in my mind, like, oh, well, that was on TV this weekend, so there's always someone with an angle. And I'm thinking, well, I have no opinion.
Well, that's going to increase
I
the
do have an
workload
opinion,
for
but
the
I don't.
courts.
I know. So I mean, so when I just said I don't have an opinion, I do in terms of the mental health piece of that, because what it does to when people get that message and they're already vulnerable because their resiliency is down and they feel lacking and they've struggled for money, all valid things. What it does is it feeds on that space of the person who lacks a sense of purpose and who isn't a self-motivator, who has been down on their luck, who doesn't know how. They're the different people that don't know how to get out of their victim role, and they were already in it, and this has just reinforced it. And so now that becomes a possibility of a meal ticket out, which doesn't drive them to get healthier. It just drives them a mental health issue, which becomes a physical issue for them, because it's now the next 2 or 3 years of their life is going to be consumed with a court case over something, and it's so unhealthy.
But this comes down to deciding where you spend your energy. Because what they've decided is, as you said, they're going to spend the next 2 or 3 years in a court case.
Right.
By the way, they're not going to go back to work.
Right.
While the court case is going on.
Right.
Because that minimizes the damages.
Right. Because
all chasing the hope of a class action settlement.
Right.
I mean, what's the best case scenario from any given company on a class action settlement?
Right.
Yeah.
It's all new, and who knows, right? So it's again another.
But this is about making your decisions about where you're going to put your mental energy.
Right, and so
are you going to put it into your victimhood, or are you going to put it into a solution?
Right, and so, and society has been so constant in keeping people buying in to victimhood.
Yes,
because it's so present. The negative side is so present and so much easier for some people. But the solution side is screaming right there, and being productive and being forward moving and having purpose and intention and so on and so forth. That doesn't mean it's easy, but nothing in life is easy. Nothing. Every decision is hard.
Right.
We'll go back, I'll use the food thing. To eat the cake is hard because it costs you calories, and to not eat it, it's hard. To get divorced is hard. To not get divorced is hard.
Yep. To
exercise is hard. To not exercise is hard. All the decisions you're going to make have some difficult component to them. And I think human nature is such that many people will pick the one that is going to be the damaging one because it's the least hard in their mind. But actually, when you're sitting on a 300-pound weight gain, or you're sitting on no job, or you're sitting on waiting on unemployment, or you have choices that are hard that would get you out of it. So it's a mental health, it's a mental gymnastics health choice to get out of those spaces, because all choices are hard. It's just they land you in different spaces. And so if you choose to do all hard things that land you in a deficit versus choose hard things that land you in a benefit, it may not be where you think you should be, but it's better than sitting in caca.
But it's so tempting to just throw your hands up and say, it's not me. This situation I'm in is not me, not my fault.
Oh yeah, it's tempting. It's easy.
Yeah.
If you're, it's like, well,
people who are battling with self-image issues anyway.
Right. Yeah, but.
Yeah.
I call that the yes but syndrome. Yes, but I can't. Yes, but I won't. I can't. I did not. I'm and it's a cycle. It's a very vicious cognitive behavioral cycle of, I have a specific thought about how things are, should be, were told to me, I see. It drives my feeling of I can't.
Yeah.
Of, the feeling of less than, which then leads to I can't, the behavior. I can't, I won't, I don't try. Because, like last week I said, I can't means I won't try. There is no I can't.
Yes, but I'm guessing you have struggles getting people even to that point, because the point is, it's not that I can, it's that they won't let me. It won't let me. There's oppression, there's COVID, there's unemployment, there's... So I didn't do any of this.
Right, it goes back to my concept of the help-rejecting complainer, right? People always are shocked when I say that. I'm like, oh, so you're a help-rejecting complainer. They're like, what? And so in psychology... in many sociological practices, social science, we call that out for being a help rejecting complainer, that, you want the help. So you say,
Yep.
air quoting, you want the help. You say you want the help. And then you get, here's all the suggestions. Here's everything. Here's what works. Proven, evidence-based, time and again. And you either don't try it or you say, yeah, but,
Mm-hmm.
and then, you don't do it. And then you come back and you complain about how you didn't help, or how I didn't help, or how someone didn't help, or that doctor, or that person, or that trainer, but at the end of the day, you're help rejecting and you're complaining about it because you're not wanting. It's
Right.
really about wanting at that point, because the will is always there. People say, oh, they don't have the willpower. No. It's want.
Yep.
It's a want, it's a motivation, and it's like, well, yeah, but they don't want me to do that, and that happened to me, and those people there. No. Here's a suggestion and whatever. So, and I'll get questions from clients that are really, really doing the work, like in recovery for addiction. People are doing the work, they're doing it, and we have discussions about, like, other people they know that are struggling, and just try to, like, they're sponsoring them or helping them, and what's going on with them. And I say they have to want it. They have to want it more than they want what they're in.
Yeah.
And it's a choice. It doesn't mean they don't want it. There's nothing negative about that. Everybody wants to be healthy. They do. Nobody says, I want to be terrible, overweight, diabetic, miserable, sitting at home crying. Nobody wants to be that way. However, the choices a person's making are leading them to that.
Yeah.
So the want to be better has to be stronger than the want to be where they are. And the pain has to be great enough at the bottom to motivate to get to that. And so my conversations that I would have would be that your help rejecting complainers are people that have a secondary gain from doing that they get attention for that. And so in my practice, people say, oh, what happens when nobody that you're working with does what you ask or say? Not my issue, right? Because no externalizing. You have to give advice all the time. In my field, I give advice. I give suggestions. I always give like 5 different suggestions per thing. And if someone comes back and says they tried all of them, it didn't work.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? And so, and I actually don't have a lot of clients that do that. I usually have right now I can think of like one that I have currently. And no matter what I say, I end up saying in the session, like, I have really nothing else to say, because no matter what I say, you're going to negate it. And then that usually turns it a little bit, but I still can't get this person to really move on stuff, because they really want to utilize the time to complain about how the things I've given them to do aren't working. And that's fine, but I point out that they're not working not because they don't work, but because you're not working them.
Right.
And that's painful to hear, and no one ever said I wasn't a straight shooter, and talk the truth in a healthy way, because it's important to not sugarcoat, and I think a lot of people get sugarcoat.
Because I think when you're stuck in the mindset of externalizing all your outcomes, when you are offered help, you externalize it to the help, and all real help comes internally.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I mean, people put you on the path, show you the way, but you still have to do the work internally. It's like taking a pill for, a particular medical problem. You think the pill's going to fix it.
Right.
Well, like a diet pill or whatever.
Right.
It's not going to fix it. You got to do stuff on top of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why, go back to Noom. Noom is the cognitive behavioral therapy for weight loss, right? No pills, and they don't require you to do any exercise, but they say if you do the cognitive behavioral piece of this and you work it through and you find your triggers and you do all the things like that, you don't have to exercise, but exercise and eating right will help you, and they teach you those things along the way. But people do really great on that, because you don't have to do the things that actually require work, but you can just think it through. But there's a great number of people who will do a program like Noom or Weight Watchers. Like, it's very similar. Well, not similar. They have a similar nature to them. Like, you have to be really mindful of your life experience around food relationship and being in the world and exercise. But there's so many people that don't want to take accountability for that, because they don't know why. They don't know why they're like that. They don't want to know why they're like that, because then they have to give up the thing And that's scary.
Well, they have to take responsibility for that outcome.
It always comes back to taking responsibility for what you're doing, and it's so much easier going to the internal external thing, right? I say this to my students at the first class every year. I always say, when you get a really good grade in this class, it's going to be because you did it. If you don't do well, you're going to blame it on me.
Right.
And I always get a laugh because people, they just go, huh. I'm like, there's your first psychological Psych 101 phenomenon to learn applied right now. When you get a C or an F in this class, it's because I was a terrible teacher. You didn't like me.
Right.
There's going to be numerous, And then I said, but if you get an A or a B, then you're satisfied. It's going to be because you did the work. And I said, and I'll get no credit. And, and it's funny because I've had many students over the past 15, 16 years in my classes say to me, when you said that, it made me make sure I didn't get anything less than a B because it motivated them to not.
They took responsibility.
They took responsibility, right.
Yeah.
And so I've had so many students over the years, yes, and I'm tooting my own horn on that because it's a psychological, I'll call it a maneuver to motivate students to know that I've got their mental mindset in mind that I want you to do well. So if you're going to fail, it's not going to be because of me, it's going to be because of you.
Yeah.
And I'm very direct about that. And it's kind of the same, I don't say it in the same way in therapy, but or with my athletes, like you do well and you compete well or you perform well or you get a hold of your anxiety because you do the work because you and I are teaming up to help each other get there. You help me help you. When you don't, that's not on me. That's on you.
Well, counseling's not a silver bullet.
Right.
And that's, again, with any help people are offered, they want to believe that the help is 100% of the reason why things get better.
Right.
They don't want to take responsibility for doing the work that goes along with it.
Exactly.
Help is just a guide.
Right.
It's just, you've got to actually do the work.
Well, and so, like, depending on the situation, therapy or psychology and doing what I do in the way I do it is I clear people's paths. I show them where they're cluttered, where they have debris, where they have roadblocks, and they shouldn't use that path anymore. Literally all these, like, metaphors so that people understand that you have to create a new path or you have to get rid of the stuff on this path to get out of the way or depending. And I think when people get that concept that they have more control of their roads and their paths instead of saying, well, someone put a train in front of it. No, they didn't. You went down that path.
Yeah.
You went down the path that had the train on it and it got in the way. Move the path over. And it's I can't.
Yeah.
No, that means you won't try. And then they go, I will try. Well, okay, then show me.
Yeah.
Show me.
How do you know you can't until you try?
Right. And then I get I did. I tried. How many times? Once.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, magic bullet. People are so used to taking a pill and fixing everything. And
one of the very common questions I get with people who come in to have help with weight loss, diet, exercise, moving forward in athleticism, whatever they're doing, right? One of the common questions I get is, how long will this take?
Oh, yeah.
And my answer is, well, in a year we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
And I get that look of, a year?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, when you do this for a year, if you do everything I say or stick close to that in the things I give you, the likelihood is next year we will not be having this same conversation because it will be better. But then when you say a year, it's that look of, oh my God, a year? I'm like, well, it took you 27 years to get here.
Right. Yeah.
And so you can't, I think I said this last week, you said it, you can't out-exercise a bad diet. You can't out mindset a negative attitude unless you really work at it. You have to move it constantly. And goes back to the top of the show is you're always having to stay in front of these things. And when you're not, then you succumb to the complacency. You become complicit to your own mind. And
it almost never, I don't know, to me, it doesn't ever become easy. It's just you're doing it constantly because you slip into your, whatever you're doing for the first 30 years of your life, you slip back into it on occasion.
Right, well, it's always your default.
Yeah.
People think, oh, can you cure my anxiety? And I'm very disappointing to some people because I say there is no cure for anxiety. There's only management and adjustment.
Right.
I get that look again. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, old school psychology would say, fight it, stop thought. And I would say, well, that's like saying, don't think about the pink elephant. There it is. Let's put it right in front of you and say, don't think about these pink elephants right in front of you. And I say, no, we're actually gonna ride it. We're gonna welcome it and say, I have anxiety. I'm a person that has anxiety. Let's sit with that for a second, because it will ride past you with you on that little float faster than you sitting there. Oh God, I'm fighting it. Oh my God. And oh, look, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I can't fight it. Yeah, because you're fighting it instead of being like, yep, I got anxious and this is why. And oh, it passed.
Yep.
So it's there, it's just like saying someone taking, Dexatrim. Remember, it's not Dexatrim, but remember back in the day that they had, it was the Fen-Phen. Remember Fen-Phen?
Oh,
when it came out and you could take the Fen-Phen and it would drop weight and give you a heart attack. But Fen-Phen was on the market for a while, and all these people that were like really, really having trouble with exercise and eating, they would drop 200-300 pounds on that because it was an amphetamine.
Yeah.
Yes, and you lost weight, but it didn't do anything for the mental state and the body state to actually get you out of the zone to move you. It's the same thing if you have a negative attitude about getting a job, or if you have anything negative, right? If you can't rely on something else to move you. You have to be able to generate okay, I have to do this. This is what's going to work. But that's hard. That's what I get. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. But it's also hard to stay in the space you are. If you've ever seen people who haven't had a job in 10 years, and you see the person on the end of the ramp in Lowell that's panhandling for money, his life is not easy. However, I've heard that he has a lot of money. But it's still, he could have $1 million. You know what? God love him. You know why? And here's the thing, and I never give him money. I actually give him coffee on occasion. But I don't give him money because if he has $1 million, that's fine. But I also know that that's hard work standing out there on that corner for 11 to 12 hours a day, rain, sleet, snow, sun. Hey, and I have respect for that in some way. Yeah, you should get a job, and he has a sign, give me a job.
Yeah.
But it's still hard work to do that. He's making a choice to do his work like that. That's how he's getting money. And people say, oh, it's lazy. He's not. Well, it's actually... Go stand outside in the sun for 15 hours and see how that works. Not that I'm condoning it, and I know people are like, oh my God, but that's actually hard work.
But imagine the stress of not having a job for 10 years as opposed to the stress of having a job and having a paycheck. It's, it's just...
Right. It's all a matter
one's
of
not
the
harder
judgment
work
on
than
it.
the
People
other.
are like, oh, why would you support that? I'm like, it's not about support. It's like I'm acknowledging that that's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like at Christmas time, I give them a $25 gift certificate to eat.
You were right. It's hard. Both ways. Many paths are hard.
Right.
You got to choose the hard you want.
Right. Exactly. And so, I think being loving and kind to oneself and to others and being helpful in that way is also a way to, if you're a person that's good at being internal and doing your own motivation, and you are watching other people struggle, being able to say, here you go, and hands off when people aren't, let go of those things that you can't control.
But people have lost the feel for control too, and that's why you do these things that give you small wins, and you start to get that. You understand that rush, and you understand the sense of accomplishment. You understand having your hands back on the wheel and controlling some of your outcomes.
Yes.
And then you get hungry for that.
But people love the out of control feeling of saying that they don't have control and it's everyone else's control. Like, no.
Yeah.
No. I had a client last night on the phone with me tell me that that he didn't have control over the way his current situation with his parent made him feel. I'm like, yes, you do.
Mm-hmm.
You have control of it. You don't have to believe what that person says to you. You don't have to take that in and actually store that to make you feel guilty.
You don't have to confront it.
He said, oh, that makes me feel guilty. I said, there's nothing, you didn't do anything wrong. You're buying into the rhetoric that the person's telling you. Because we had evidence that there was no way that was true. But because it's a parent and adult child, the child feels compelled to have to submit to the parents, commentaries.
Right.
And no, you don't have to do that. And it's that very ingrained, well, you're being disrespectful because you're a parent. Well, adults have two-way streets.
Yep.
Respect gets respect. If you take advantage of your child as a child or as an adult by maneuvering or guilting or shaming or whatever, and the child finally sets a boundary and says no more, that's actually okay. It doesn't feel good for the parent or the person that's doing that, but it also gets into the whole thing of gaslighting, which is a whole different show.
Gaslighting, yes. I love gaslighting.
Gaslight. Did you just say you love gaslighting?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I love this topic of it because
people
are victims of it all the time.
Yes.
And I'm using the victim word, and I shouldn't use the victim, but
Well, people succumb to it
Yeah.
a lot, right? So it's one of the classic pieces of how people, not just women, but people get stuck in battered relationships is through gaslighting. So it's
And the funny part about it is, oftentimes those people know they're being gaslighted. They know the truth of the issue, but they're still submitting themselves to it.
Well, so interesting. So I'm going to come at that with a little bit different, because this is, the theme of, resiliency today and forward progress and all that. So many people don't know what gaslighting really is. They know something's happening that's not good or healthy or feels good. Like, they just know it, but they
it's
don't
not
know.
legitimate.
Yeah, they don't know what it is. They just, so here's to the resiliency piece and vulnerability. If a person's not resilient enough or has vulnerabilities that are beyond the standard deviation of what's in the norm, right, within the normal limits, they're more prone to getting gaslit.
Yes.
And the radar for the gaslighting isn't open in there because they're so used to it already, because they've likely been raised in the gaslighting, or they've had it happen to them so often in so many other ways. And it doesn't have to be parents. It can be coaches, teachers, friends. It usually has a stem in growing up years anyway, but
Media,
right?
Yeah.
And what is gaslighting? So really quickly for people, and maybe I'll do the show on gaslighting next week, because that would be, unless something else comes up, but like the thing we're supposed to be having going on.
Let me give you a great example.
Wait, I gotta give the definition first.
All right. Yep.
So gaslighting, by definition, essentially is when you're manipulating someone else. I hate the word manipulation because it's really a coping strategy. When you're maneuvering, I use maneuvering. When you're maneuvering someone else to get your needs met it's unhealthy. You're not being direct. You're being passive aggressive. You're doing things in a way that's like, oh, I didn't say that when you actually did. And there's around 11 or 12 forms that are typically identified as, and it's emotional abuse, and it's a way of taking a person through a powerful dynamic out of their ability to think correctly for themselves, to think, cast doubt, like maybe I am, maybe no. And it happens in addiction all the time. People who live in addiction houses, the addict who's active, not in recovery, will ping the other people in the household for gaslight. They'll gaslight them. They'll they'll make them feel bad as if they've done something, when in fact, they'll turn it around and make it look like it's the other person. That's not me. You did that. It's not me. So.
It's about a person's susceptibility to the power of suggestion.
Right.
And one of the examples that I always love, because I do a ghost hunting show as well, and they do.
I know you do.
They do EVPs.
Yep.
Do you know what an EVP is?
I do.
Yeah. So that will be the sound that they record at a space, and they will play the EVP for you.
Yes.
And you'll hear something, and it doesn't mean anything to you.
Right.
But what they'll tell you is, he said, "Get out."
Yeah.
And that's all you hear. Right. Now that you've been given that.
Right.
That becomes your reality.
Right.
Right. It's the same way people
because
miss.
It gets to that subliminal level of just at the little pull that you're susceptible to go, oh yeah, that's there.
Your mind's not comfortable with, I don't understand that. So when someone gives you a way to understand it, you jump on it.
Right.
It's like when someone says, I told you I was going to be late.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, maybe you did.
Oh, there was a shot. Oh, that was a shot.
No.
Oh,
that
was such. Talk about an unconscious, subconscious little shot at me. Did you all hear that?
No.
Lou, you are so fired.
Honestly, I'd have been proud of it if I had thought of that, but no, that was just.
That was good.
No, I'd have stood up and signed that if I meant it. I didn't mean it.
That was good,
it just worked that way.
Wow, I called that one. Yes. Yes, go ahead. Oh, I took you off your game on that one too. You're like, wait, what?
No, so it's just easy for some people are just submit to that power of suggestion too much.
Yes.
And often in relationships, that's where it happens, because they don't want to believe the truth.
Right.
So when they get I told you, I told you this was going to happen, maybe you did. There's that doubt, because if you stick with the reality, one option is this relationship is over and we shouldn't be in it and it's unhealthy and I don't want to be with this person. And the other is, well, maybe I was wrong. Maybe he did tell me that, or maybe,
Right. Or maybe I heard it wrong.
Yeah.
Or maybe that did happen, or that didn't happen. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Then there are people who are very good. There are people who are susceptible to that, and they often find people who are very good at manipulating that.
Right.
I'll use that word. Maneuvering that, yeah.
And the reason why.
By the way, it's wicked easy too.
It's what?
It's wicked easy
For
to
some,
gaslight people.
For
Yeah.
some people,
Yeah.
it's very easy to do that, and some people are very well trained at being gaslit because they have, a passive aggressive family member that is constantly gaslighting them, which
Yeah.
sets up a child become an adult who gets gaslit and gets into abusive relationships or friendships
Yeah.
or so on and so forth, because it's so. The best examples I can think of right now are all the passive aggressive things, like, someone saying like, oh, if I only had a child that would do this for me,
Yep.
I'm
Doesn't even have to be. How about the you can't do anything right?
yes,
You're talking to kids, you can't do anything right.
Right.
Pretty soon the child's convinced they can't do
can't
anything
do anything
right.
right, so they
Yeah.
give up. It's the
Yep.
and that's the breeding of codependency. Because it's a person taking away the child's initiative and the industry of the child to be able to go out and do, and you can't.
Because
do
it doesn't matter what they do; it's all external. I can't do anything right.
Right. When
Yeah.
you see it, and people, and when I teach this in my class, people are often like, "Oh my God, I didn't even realize," because a lot of my students have kids because they're in the certificate program for counseling, and so they're a little bit older, and they'll have like young ones, and I'll be like, when you're trying to get your kid to eat faster when they're just learning to eat, so you pick up their fork for them and you start feeding them, or you don't let them walk up and down stairs, you pick them up and carry them, you're sending us a subconscious message that you're not good enough, you're not fast enough, you're not meeting. That's where it starts. It's like once or twice you're doing it, you just be like, okay, we got to go. But if you're doing it all the time and
Right.
taking it away, you're taking away the kids' independence that is age appropriate to then allow them to build self-confidence. And people are like, oh my gosh. And it happens. That's right around 3, 4, 5 years old.
And some people, the problem is the parents believe this sometimes. It's not that they're maneuvering, or what's the word you like to use?
Maneuvering.
Maneuvering it. They're not maneuvering the child. They get into a mindset that the kid can't do anything right.
Right.
So they keep
Yes.
passing that on, and the kid starts to believe it.
Right.
Or, she really can't do this. She needs help. And it's like, well, okay.
Right.
She should be doing it on her own by now,
Right.
or at least learning to do it on her
right.
own. Yeah.
And spending the time to
Give
have
her
it.
the ability to try to do it on her own, and then help her when she needs help.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where, and so that goes back to, you're not breeding resiliency, you're not building resiliency in someone, and you're making codependency, which is where like addiction starts. You're addicted to the need to be needed, or someone else's need to be needed for you, because someone's
pretty
tying
soon,
your shoes, someone's doing your food, someone's making your clothes out, and someone's needing to make sure they tell you how to say, what to say, don't leave the house looking like that, don't speak like that, like,
Can you help
seriously?
me clean my room? Yeah, okay. That's a whole storyline right there.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
At
No.
a certain age,
Right.
when the child's asking you, help me clean my room, it's like,
Right. Well, that's so maybe next week, if we don't have the other thing that we have maybe planned to coming, maybe I'll do the gaslighting, because that's a huge piece, because I have it goes to the resiliency piece and how to make your motivation go forward and how to be not sedentary and get stuck. Is childhood starts this, and then you become an adult who doesn't have the motivation and doesn't have the internal fortitude and storyline to make them have the drive, because it's been taken from them.
Right.
And then they bought into it, and then society plays a role in it to have that perpetuate, and that it's one of those things. But anyway, nonetheless, have some resiliency today and go
Yes.
sign up for the humanbaton.com/challenges.
make
because
that
that's
your
where you
one
guys-
thing checklist today to sign up
Yeah,
for the
one
Human
thing.
Baton.
Yeah, that's the checklist item.
Yeah,
is to
go do it.
Lou, that's your checklist item. I'm gonna be pinging you later and making sure that I'm gonna be pinging California to say, did Lou sign up yet? And they're gonna say yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lou, without giving away, do we have any progress on the possibility of having
We have
guests on
progress. I think I'm guessing a week from Wednesday.
a week from next Wednesday?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So next week I'll tell everybody what's coming, because
That's
it's
right.
going to be exciting
Yep.
for all the athletes and non-athletes, but really cool things coming. So excellent. All right, you guys, have a great week and enjoy yourselves and be safe out there.